Mr. President, I rise today to express my strong support for the nomination of Leon Panetta to be the next Secretary of Defense. Director Panetta comes to this job at an extraordinarily challenging time for the Department of Defense and for our nation. Among the many issues he will confront, Mr. Panetta will oversee the completion of our direct military operations in Iraq, the beginning of the transition of our forces in Afghanistan, the enhancement of our cyber defenses, and the reduction of our defense budget. I have known Leon Panetta for many years, and I know he is particularly well-suited to address all of these challenges. He is a man of great intellect, of great decency, and great determination. At the end of this year, for example, in compliance with the Status of Forces Agreement, we will conduct a withdrawal of our combat forces from Iraq and hand over primary responsibility for our ongoing relationship with the Department of State in regards to Iraq. It remains to be seen whether the Iraqi government will ask us to extend our military presence past December 31st. But for now, we are thoroughly and determinedly preparing our troops to leave. Having served as a member of the Iraq Study Group, Mr. Panetta certainly understands the importance of this transition and will carry it out. As the next Secretary of Defense, Leon Panetta will also continue to focus our efforts on fighting terrorism in Afghanistan and Pakistan. We are facing a critical turning point in our operations. This week, we expect President Obama to announce his plan to begin reducing our force levels in Afghanistan this summer, a commitment he made in his speech at West Point in 2009. Along with the reduction in forces, we must sustain the security gains that we have accomplished during the past year and further build the capacity of the Afghani forces so that they are able to take full responsibility for their own security. Mr. Panetta understands how important it is for all of our agencies to work together in this effort and all security missions, that using military force may be our primary weapon in securing areas, but enduring success comes from coordination among the intelligence and law enforcement communities, from effective diplomacy, from effective assistance programs that are administered by the Department of State and the USAID. The conditions on the ground in Afghanistan are directly related to our ability to successfully attack the terrorist networks that are operating along the border in Pakistan. In his current position as director of the CIA, Mr. Panetta has reinvigorated these efforts, most notably with the successful raid on Osama bin Laden. Indeed, I believe when history looks back, outside of the critical and ultimate decision by the President of the United States, one of the most important roles played in this effort to prepare the way for those courageous SEALs was the steady leadership of Leon Panetta at the Central Intelligence Agency. He understands the complexity of our relationship with Pakistan and indeed throughout the world. This expertise will be critical as we move forward, critical for our next Secretary of Defense. He will also lead the Department of Defense in preparing for the emerging threats to our national security, such as attacks to our cyber infrastructure. Indeed, every branch of government is working to define the roles various organizations will play in protecting people, infrastructure, and information within cyberspace. During his confirmation hearings before the Senate Armed Services Committee, I discussed with Director Panetta the strategy of the Department of Defense that they would employ in confronting the potential of a cyber attack against the United States. And he responded in no uncertain terms. His words, "I've often said that there's a strong likelihood that the next Pearl Harbor that we confront could very well be a cyber attack that cripples our power systems, our grid, our security systems, our financial systems, our governmental systems. This is a real possibility in today's world. And as a result, I think we have to aggressively be able to counter that." End of quote. Indeed, Mr. Panetta understands the future as well as the present, and he will bring his experience as well as his vision to bear on the emerging challenges that face the United States. And perhaps most challenging of all, Leon Panetta will lead the department in a time of great physical constraint. As our nation continues to find a path forward to rebound from the economic challenges of the last few years, there is an ever-growing pressure to reduce the size of the defense budget, which has nearly doubled over the past 10 years. We must be careful to do so in a way that moves unsustainable costs without losing vital capabilities. As a result of the high operational tempo and the duration of multiple overseas operations, all of our services are facing serious reset and recapitalization needs. Serious decisions will have to be made to ensure that we have the right systems in place to meet the threats we face, all at a price level that we can afford. Having served as the House Budget Committee Chairman and as the Director of the Offices of Management and Budget, there is no one that has more knowledge, more experience, more sense of the details than Leon Panetta. And he is the most well-qualified, I believe, individual to tackle the huge budgetary issues that are facing the Department of Defense. Now, Leon will have an extraordinary role to play, particularly in the wake of the extraordinary service of Secretary of Defense Robert Gates. I can't think of anyone I respect or admire more. I can't think of anyone who has served his country with more distinction, who has served it with more selfless dedication to the nation, and fundamentally, who's made his decisions knowing full well that at the end of the day, young Americans in the uniform of the United States will carry out his orders. Bob Gates has done a superb job, but I have every confidence that Leon Panetta will continue to carry on, will continue to meet those standards, will continue to lead the Department of Defense with distinction, with dedication, and great loyalty, and ultimately, just as Secretary of Gates has done, will know that at the end of all the decisions emanating from the Pentagon, there is a young American willing and able and ready to serve, to support this nation and defend us. With that, I rise to express my great support for Secretary-designate Panetta and wish him well in all of his endeavors and pledge to work with him closely. And with that, Mr. President, I would yield the floor.